Hi everyone, welcome to today's Hangout on Air for Chrome for Work. I'm Luke Medland, Customer Success Manager at Google for Work, and today I'm joined by Rune Benting. Rune will be is part of the business development for devices for work at Google. So thanks for joining us, Rune.
Thank you, Luke.
Before we kick off today, just a reminder that please add your questions using the Q&A app within the Hangout. We will address the questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so without further ado, let's hand you over to Rune.
Thank you. So, hey everyone. Luke, I just want to make sure because I can't see that from here, is everyone logged in?
Yes, it's live now, and people can access it. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'm aware it's live. I just want to make sure that people are ready. But yeah, let's go ahead. So yeah, thanks for the introduction, Luke, and thanks to all of you guys for joining the session today. And we're really excited about this because it's actually the first time we do this in EMEA around Chrome. So let's see where that can take us. And to get started, I think the important thing here for you to understand is, where does the whole Chrome for Work and Google for Work fit in together, so to speak. So really, if you're familiar with the whole Google for Work, formerly known as Google Enterprise, it's an organization within Google that helps businesses and organizations to transform digitally, so to speak, right? And Chrome is obviously a very important play of that, the Chrome OS, Chrome browser as well. But also we provide a lot of other products that you may or may not be familiar with in your work environment, so to speak. Most of you probably know these products or are using them in the private setting, so to speak. So, but today, as I said, we're going to focus on Chrome for Work, and we'll go through what Chrome for Work is, where it comes from, and also to give you some examples of different use cases. And obviously, we hope that we can, inspire you and you will pick that conversation up with us and our dedicated Chrome partners after this session. So, just before we get into the detail, I think the point that is really, really important to make here and why Google for Work is here is, as I said, around digital transformation. And just to give you some facts around how important that is, MIT Sloan Management did some research and a report around this last year, and it's very, very clear that businesses and organizations really, enabling and taking in the digital, components that are out there among their employees, among their customers as well, actually creates a benefit to them. As you can see, the revenue, profitability, market valuation is definitely impacted by that. I think the other thing that study says as well, you can use your preferred search engine to find more about the research. But I think that another key thing is that one of the conclusions are that you can't really avoid the digital transformation, right? So for your business, it's more a question about how you tackle that, right? And the longer you wait, the more reactive you are, the less influence you have on that digital advantage, right? So I think that's really, really important for businesses and organizations, and it's a big part of the conversation that we have with companies out there. So going back to Chrome, one of the first things that we want to share with you is definitely the momentum that we're having in the Chrome devices. And as I said, we'll come back to the nitty-gritty details in a minute. But for example, if you're not aware of the Chrome devices, it's basically a Chromebook, a laptop that is run on Chrome operating system. And we have other form factors as well that we'll give you some examples on. But in a nutshell, the key message here is, we've been working on this in Google for a number of years. and we really started to see the momentum among businesses and organizations. So we're really excited about that. And just to give you some examples, I mean, you're probably aware that, you know, around Amazon and so forth, some of the most popular laptops, so to speak, are actually Chromebooks. And I think the now that we just had our Cyber Monday as well as Black Friday, we've seen some recent articles actually picking up on this. And you know, just to summarize that from a from an education point of view, obviously it has not only to do with the Cyber Monday, but there is some best-selling mobile and laptops around the Chrome offerings and the Google offerings as such, where we see that we're really getting some traction there. And yeah, we're keen to continue that, and hopefully you will be a part of that journey. We're the digital device revolution that we are, as we like to call it. So the other thing around the momentum, which most organizations still are to find out, so to speak. That's why part of the reason why we have this conversation is, you know, obviously around the different types of devices. So if you look a little bit more back than a year ago, we only had a couple of the OEMs or the hardware manufacturers actually providing and working with us on Chromebooks and Chromebox and Chromebase, which are the different form factors. So, you know, as of today, it's really, really good to see that, you know, we have Lenovo, Acer, Samsung, Toshiba, Asus, HP, Dell, and LG all working with us, partnering with Google around you know, a Chrome device offering. And as a matter of fact, we have 15 different types of Chromebooks, which is our laptop form factor. Every one of those, you know, varies from screen size to battery life to resolution and form factor and so forth, right? So there is more opportunity for you to actually select the device that meets your requirements for you and your employees or customers. We also have, as you might see, the little Asus one is a Chromebox, which is what we call our, you know, desktop or thin client, if you will. But that's really, you know, a very small unit that you can just plug in the keyboard and the screen, and you're basically up and running in seconds from your desk, wherever you want to put it. It's important to mention that some of the other OEMs are providing that service as well. So HP, Dell, for example, also work on the or has the Chromebox, so to speak, on the shelves. Lastly, we have seen LG made in the lower right-hand corner, just to navigate you there. Like, it's actually a built-in screen computer, which, yeah, is very popular among businesses and organizations. And the last one, the new one, is a good example for, you know, for you to see in terms of what you can do with, you know, the Chrome OS. So this is a purpose-built video conference device. So this is what we call Chromebox for meetings. So it's basically taking the in this example here is the Asus Chromebox together with you know, other components, and there is a purpose-built device to enable your business to work. Yeah, basically, if you have remote or many different locations or offices, you know, you can actually join via video conferencing system and have meetings and so forth with that. You know, you don't have to travel, and the service here is like a very disruptive in terms of cost and so forth. Yeah. So, and I think the some of you who are familiar with the way that Google operates and innovate is we obviously like to start to look at the consumer, right, and provide some strong consumer products. And you know, we have Maps for work and so forth. We also have in this case the Chrome browser, which is today used by more than 750 million people or consumers. So most of you are probably familiar with that setup as a private user, so to speak. And it's a part of that same experience we take into the businesses and organizations as well. I think as late as a couple of weeks ago, we've seen some metrics on that businesses are actually using the Chrome browser as well, and that's really picking up. I think we're talking about 30-40%. And obviously that's because of the speed, it's secure, it just works really, really well. And I think for you, from a business point of view, the reason why Chrome is interesting as well is obviously because it works so well with HTML, which is proving very popular to provide good end user solutions. So, what is the Chrome platform offering, right? In terms of your organization or business, or for your your customers, it's important to understand what the Chrome platform actually consists of. There are some components. Some of them we will go into more detail than other. But for example, one is the Chrome App Store. Yeah, so you can actually access different apps from the App Store. The other one is the Chrome browser, as I said. We also have the Chrome devices, which we covered, which you could see like as an access point. And then obviously we have more purpose-built devices, as I said, like the Chromebox meetings is one. We also provide like Chrome kiosks, so it's more like purpose-built device around customer kiosks or employee kiosks, for example. Lastly, we have very, very important component is the Chrome management platform or console, which is really enabling you to actually manage the devices across the different use cases that you have. So you may have some office workers, you may have some digital signage screens, that is where the content is run by a Chromebook or Chromebox, the Chrome OS. You may have customer kiosks, employee kiosks, and so forth, right? And the Chrome management console is really core to actually be able to manage and set up those devices in the right way. So when we look at the traditional desktop, so to speak, there is the physical process of keeping that traditional desktop updated, and in terms of hardware, software, and so forth, it's really, really physical, consuming, and complex, right? So imagine you have to go out there, you have to update it, you actually have to make sure that it works. It takes a long time, and you're not even sure whether it works well together with the new updates that you're providing. And in the end, it creates a lot of frustration around the users, and that's really part of the the difference around the Chrome is that we want to get rid of that. And really where we see the Chromebook is it's a different way of it's actually a different kind of computer, so to speak. And some of the key reasons are that like it's a cloud-based computer. Obviously, it still works offline for some applications. For example, the whole collaboration suite that Google offers, like Drive, Gmail, and so forth, is obviously working offline as well. And there are other third-party apps that works offline as well. The other important thing is obviously around the security and protection. It's very fast, and the interesting thing is here it actually gets better over time, right? And there is updates pushed every 6 weeks, and you don't even notice it. It takes like you don't even notice the update taking place in the background. And then, as I said, around the Chrome management console, you can actually deploy and manage those devices centrally from that. From experience, the clients that we engage with, as you can see, it's here in big letters is, one thing is the cost savings. That's obviously a key thing for the offering. However, I would like to stress that, as I said from experience, the most important things are, for example, security is really, really good. All of the devices are certified by Google. They are encrypted, so there is no footprint on the devices at all. And then there's the other key, component that many organizations finds very compelling is the deployment and management via the management console. So yeah, so if we look at the TCO compared to a traditional PC, it's a massive difference in terms of the total cost that you have. So, in terms of use cases, I hope you find this interesting. We would have loved to do a demo, but due to we want to make sure that everything is going through smoothly to you guys, we're going to keep it at the slide level, so to speak. And we're going to cover some of the different use cases that we've seen pick up within the last couple of years, and where we see a great potentially for you as well. I have to say, in the end, there is a link to a form where you can fill in your interest in any of these, and we will make sure that there will be a follow-up on those inquiries. Yes, so we need to start somewhere, and I said there is a single app, thin client, desktop replacement, kiosk apps, Chromebox meetings, public terminal. Before I go into these in a bit more detail, I think the most important thing for you to understand here is that basically you have a cost-efficient and easy to manage and very secure Chrome operating system, and that comes in different form factors. But what you want to use that for is basically up to you. Okay, so you can run specific applications that may meet your requirements. If it's for sharing information, staying relevant to customers or employees in the canteen and so forth, there are many different ways that you can actually apply the Chrome OS to deliver that kind of functionality, so to speak. But let's get some insights or examples of how the different use cases can look like. So the first one is an example of a thin client. We work very, very closely with some of the virtualization partners or VDI partners like VMware and Citrix around providing a really, really good experience for businesses looking into virtualization, already doing virtualization. And I think we have a lot of clients actually, find that really that combination really interesting. The actually, for example, you have the Citrix receiver app, which you can, if you're on a Chromebook right now and you're actually running virtualized environments on or with Citrix, you should be able to download the Citrix receiver app from the web store, the Chrome web store or app store, and be able to enable or access your virtualized environment within a matter of seconds. The other thing that is compelling there for many businesses is also the fact that it's very, very secure, and as I said again, you have no footprint on the computer. I think one important thing is here. Some of you will be Google Apps, Google Drive customers. Some of you may not be. Some of you will be looking into it. But the whole Chromebook offering or the Chrome for Work offering is not dependent on that part, right? So you can use, as you can see here is a good example of how we can access some of other, legacy applications through the Chromebook as well. And going into the next cases, so just before I go there, like the previous case is, as I said, was a thin client or virtualized environment, but you don't need to virtualize. But it's an example of how the traditional, mobile or office worker wanted to be mobile could work with a Chromebook. The other cases, for example, that I think is interesting to discuss as well, are around the cases where you face clients or users or customers or employees. And what we see is, if you look at consumerization, right, there's, the digitalization, the technology is really disrupting, the way that your customers and, said users, employees, and so forth interact with your company or organization. And what we can see is, that's definitely have an impact on how and who will, invest in the technology, right? So I can see the quote here from Forbes is interesting in that way, because there is an opportunity here with the technology to, be more relevant to your stakeholders, so to speak, whatever they will be, right? And the whole Chromebook or Chrome for Work offering enables that. One example is, in this case, a kiosk app. So that's something you would set up within the management console, but really what it does is that it enables you to boot up a device in a single application. Yeah, and that's obviously, if you talk about ticketing, customer surveys, and store display, digital sign, and so forth, is something we see quite a lot. So Polaroid, for example, is one where they use that in some of their stores. And we get back to some other examples as well, customer examples. And just to, what we can see, interest is really picking up. As I said, like we have the operating system. Again, you can visualize and use that to visualize your new application across many different types of setups. Interesting note here is that Chrome OS supports touchscreen. So, for example, if you're in Starbridge, you would like to use, in some cases, probably the touchscreen functionality, or you may not want to use that, depending on the specific use case. But it's definitely there. Also, on a note, in terms of apps, which I didn't mention before, earlier we launched Runtime. So basically, that means that you can run Android applications within the Chrome. Within the Chromebook, basically, or the Chrome operating system. So Evernote is one example. Wine is another one, where you can actually access the Android app from your Chromebook, so to speak. Basically, the thing is here that we want to make sure that you can access your apps whatever device you're using, right? So I think that's a very, very important thing for businesses to understand, because instead of having to build one specific application for Android and Chrome, you can just use the one that you already built on Android, for example, and use that on the Chrome environment as well. And we do have customers that are looking into this. So just to give you a visual overview here, right, and says like that thing is not the whole kiosk digital signage. Sorry for the misspelling here. Is not tied into a specific vertical, right? But as I said, it's really about you, where you as a business organization can meet your stakeholders, like customers, employees, whether it's just be like visualization, or also that you want your stakeholders to interact with the offerings and the information that you share, right? Good example is Adidas providing a kiosk app in store, where you can actually swipe through the different pair of shoes and look at the range that that's available. Another highly related example is a public terminal, but I think if you could differentiate that to the previous kiosk example is that this is more about providing access to a number of applications, and obviously again depending on who is accessing that terminal or case, there will be a specific set of applications that you said that will be available. That goes across call centers, for example, libraries, business centers, airport lounges, shared workstation as well. So to give you some examples of customers actually doing this, some of you may be familiar with Big Lots, and they're using the Chrome kiosk or Chrome device kiosk setup to actually help their customers to get a better experience when they apply for finance in store, right? So it's a self-service. Again, it's centrally managed and so forth. It's very secure, and I think there are some really strong return on investment metrics here, in the sense that better customer service or experience. Also, you have the whole process is actually shortened down in time as well. And as you can see, there is in terms of bottom line, you see an increase in sales, right? So very practical, hands-on, but very, very big impact on the business as such. Another example is Whole Foods. So in this case, we have a couple of cases with those. In this case, it's for internal, right? So you could say that's an employee kiosks or employee Chrome experience, so to speak, where the employees can access certain types of applications. So in this case, it will be HR, information and systems, and actually to help improve and simplify the communications to the employees out there. And I said that. I think that goes back to the thing about staying relevant, staying up to date to your stakeholders. Another example is Chromebooks in kiosk mode. So actually, you can go there and order whatever you want to order on a Chromebook where it's already set up, right? So yeah, that's another good example. The last one I will show you for now is Sears. Again, it's for customers to help Sears to actually increase the sales and improve the conversions. And really, it's enabling them to actually become more, to enable the customers to become more, to interact better with, with the Sears customer experience or store experience, so to speak, right? And yeah, hopefully, the main goal is being achieved, as you can see, right? And again, going back to the whole thing about HTML5. That's another key benefit that we see, and we see a lot of the requests on Chromebooks actually comes from developers as well, because they really want to make sure that the applications and the user experience, is evident today, that that's superior, is actually being enabled for the customer or the users that they have in mind, and yeah, the Chrome play is really strong in that matter. So I said, you start with the use case. I mean, throughout the last 4 years, there's been great progress and a great adoption among businesses, organizations, schools, and so forth. When we engage with clients, the most important thing is to focus on one or a couple of use cases where you can see this can become interesting or make sense for you, right? And hopefully, just before we go that, sorry, I'm just skipping through the slides here. Hopefully, you've seen some of those use cases and got some you know, ideas and inspiration on how you can use the Chrome devices out there. And as I said, the whole Chrome platform consists of different parts, so to speak. And from our point of view, one of the most fundamental things, as I said, is the Chrome Management Console. And I'll just cover that in a couple of slides so you get a basic understanding what you can do in the Chrome Management Console. So I said, the Chrome Management Console is basically where you can manage all of the devices across all of the use cases that you just seen. So it's not just tied to the Office worker or the, you know, the new desktop, so to speak, because that's the example most are familiar with, but it covers all of them. Really, it's about managing the devices and the users and the assets that you have. We have more than 120 policies. So, for example, it's around, you know, you want to disable guest mode, want to set up Wi-Fi restrictions, or they can only access certain Wi-Fi networks, the devices, and so forth. So there are many different ways to use those policies. So yeah, so the first one that I showed was you can manage the users. You can also manage applications. So you can pre-install apps. So for example, if there are, you know, for your workforce, there might be 5, let's say a couple of applications that are key for you. You want to make sure that those are highlighted and shown as first, because that's the ones they will use them. And you have that, you know, possibility to customize, you know, the user experience from that point of view. And obviously also, as I said, one of the core things is managing the devices. So the enrollment is very easy and works from the Chrome Management Console. So we will really, if you want to read more about that, just use your preferred search engine. Hopefully it gives you the right results, and you will find you know, information around, like if you search for Chrome Management Console policies, you should be able to get some relevant results around the different policies and so forth. Lastly, around managed assets. So again, how are the assets or the devices looking? You know, what's the activation, when the last thing, and so forth. As said, we had a video conferencing offering as well. Just 3 slides on that, and then I think we're almost done. But really, in a nutshell, you know, the Chromebox meetings, as we call it, is really for you to be able to connect with employees, colleagues, customers, other stakeholders. You can do interviews. You can do, you know, whatever requirements that you have to communicate with other, or scenarios that you have to connect with other people in the other end, so to speak. The Chromebox for meetings is a very interesting solution for that, and has proven very popular among small, medium-sized, and also large businesses. So, to give an example, this is probably how many meeting rooms look like. Hopefully, you know, all of the meeting rooms, many meeting rooms in the future will integrate the calendar and the video conferencing and so forth into one, so people can have a more interactive and you know, efficient and productive remote meeting. Important to say is that we do not provide the screen, but everything else is provided by Google and its partners. So, really, that's it for me here for now. Like, if you're interested, we will. I hope, Luke, you can copy that link there and ping that to people in the chat, and people can sign up just if they want to know more, if they're interested in this, the whole Chrome for Work offering, and we will get in touch with you guys. So I think that's really what I have for now. And Luke, I know you have some questions.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rune. Yeah, just reiterating what Rune says there. Well, we'll make sure that that link is in the on the Google Plus page, and make sure that you use that to submit your feedback, but also register any interest that you have. That'd be fantastic. So we've got some questions. I'm just going to run through some of the top questions that we've got that have been plussed. So the first question is, you can now stream Photoshop to your Chromebook. Any plans to add more applications that will be streamed in the future? So Rune, have you got any insight onto that?
I think that's a leading question. I would be surprised if we don't have that in the future. Yeah. So obviously the Photoshop play is a very interesting play, right? Because it has some different requirements in terms of the hardware and the software, and I think that's all I can say. But yeah,
yep.
Stay put.
Okay, great. Next up, we've got any plans to improve video presentations via Chromebox for meetings? And the second question here, also make it easier for non-Gmail clients to attend Hangouts. So just on that second point, I can answer that we're currently investigating how to do that, and stay tuned for more information on that in the near future. And then in terms of improving video presentations, I'm not sure, Rune, if you have any insight onto that one.
I think just as a general thing here, right? If you already are a customer and have any of those questions, right, reach out to your partner or Google support to make sure you have those questions covered, because obviously all those feature requests and questions in general, we look at those and try to feed that back into our product management, who will take those the most important feature requests into consideration, right? In terms of the specific question, we are working on those things, that's for sure. And that's as you say, Luke, look for more information, right? That's the best answer we can give, but we are looking at those things here. Yeah. So I think what you can do, if I said, like, reach out to support your partner, and we can follow up with those specific requests, because yeah, it's in our interest as well to make sure that you have those covered.
Fantastic. Okay, so next up, is there any plans to improve performance of Hangouts? Currently on Chromebooks that don't have an i5 CPU, we see extremely slow performance.
Is that a question for me again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I said that's the same as the one before, right? Like, we are focusing and investing a lot of resources in providing the whole, or improving the whole, developing the whole experience around that.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you are a customer, reach out to support. I'll stick the support link for Chromebooks and Chromebooks on the Google Plus page. So follow those links and go through our support process. Next up, let's have a look. This one here. Some basic security features are still not available in Google Apps. For example, you can't have policies to enforce strong passwords or force users to change their passwords at regular intervals. Are there any plans to add these features?
So that was a Google Apps question, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I think so. We have certain restrictions in place at the moment for Google Apps customers, just for logging on in general to Google Apps. But I'm not sure if there are any specifics there for Chrome. Are you aware, Rune?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so in terms of Google Apps, you do have some control over that via the admin console. But we have other customers as well that use single sign-on, for instance, to control some of those nuances in password policies. So investigate that as well.
We launched, looking up our Chrome blog as well, we launched a single sign-on for Chromebooks as well within the last 2 months or so. That was a very sought after request, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, next up, simple request. When will Chromebooks for meetings be available in Germany?
Hopefully. I can't comment really on that. But if he's willing to buy 1,000, let's look at it. No, just kidding. Yeah, no. If you send us if you complete the form, and we can take it offline, and I can put you in touch with my German colleagues.
Fantastic. Okay. When will the VMware Horizon connector be available for Chrome OS?
Again, send us the. That's a very, very good question. I would be happy to follow up on that. So please complete the form and make that as a comment. I think there is a other field where you can write that, and we will try to follow up on that offline as well. There is no doubt that we are working very closely with virtualization partners mentioned before. So yeah.
Okay. Are you expecting to see more robust Chromebooks come to the market? I've been road testing one for one of the leading models for the past 6 months, and despite being reasonably well looked after, it's already looking quite bruised and battered. Any thoughts on that, Rune?
Well, first of all, I would like to understand what this person is using it for, whether he's using it in the field or at home or in other settings. No, jokes aside, like there are, as I said earlier, like we provide more than, we actually have 15 different types of Chromebooks, and then vary in form factor, as said. So I would strongly recommend to have a look at our Chrome for Work devices page, and you can look at the different types of devices that are available in the market today.
Great. Okay. Moving on. Any plans for RDP functionality in Chrome OS?
Yes, that's a very good question. I would recommend that you use your preferred search engine and search for that, and hopefully you will see in the Chrome web store that actually that app is already available for free, right? So that functionality is already out there, and yeah, go give it a try.
Great. So this next question is kind of more around Google Apps. So will Google Apps Device Policy Management ever support Windows Phone? Again, we've recently enabled iOS management and turned off IMAP for our employees. We have a number of employees that have Windows Phone that can't gain access via Exchange. So I can probably answer this one. So currently we support Android and iOS as our main mobile platforms. So right now the only way of getting Windows Phone via Exchange or via the Exchange protocol is by enabling that for Google Apps. Saying that, obviously you can get it through the web as well using the web browser. But right now we don't have any plans to bring any sort of native functionality to Windows phones. Okay. Okay. We would like to use Cisco AnyConnect to connect to the VPN. Any hints you can give us?
Please complete the form because it's an interesting inquiry, and we'll follow up with you on that.
Okay. Let's have a look.
A lot of questions there.
There are. I think we've kind of exhausted most of them. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's a question around when will Chromebox be available in the Netherlands, and I'm guessing it's the same sort of answer that we gave for our German colleagues.
Is it Chromebox for meetings?
Yeah, Chromebox for meetings.
Yes, that would be the same answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks so much. If you've got any further questions, or if we haven't got around to answering your question, please complete the form, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Thanks again for joining us today, and thanks again, Run, for running us through the presentation.
Well, you're welcome, and everyone out there, just start Chroming now. It's about time. And I wish you all a great day.
Fantastic. Everyone get their Chrome on. I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.